I thank the grace of Heavenly Mother, compassion of Maitreya Buddha, Jigong Buddha, virtue of Patriarch, Sijun Simu, and also Grandmaster and Senior Master Li and Junior Master Li to allow me to have this opportunity to host this session. And I'm so pleased that we are going to discuss chapter 31. So on chapter 31, on the surface, it looks like it's talking about war, talking about battle, but that's not the purpose of our study today. Of course, we want to study the chapter literally, but we also want to learn how does this chapter apply to us. So if you look at it, how many of you are in the military? So most of people will think, okay, I'm not in the military, so this one does not apply to me. I want you to take this chapter in a different perspective. So let's begin with the chapter title. The chapter title is focusing on the left. First of all, is this character, Gui. Gui means regard highly, cherish, treasure, and to appreciate something. And in this chapter, it's about appreciating the left. And you say, what's left? What is left all about? So left in the ancient Chinese philosophy, in Confucius' term, in Lao Tzu's teaching, left. And even in the teaching from Saint Fuxi, left, it has a significant meaning, which means yin, which means upper, benevolent, growth, humbleness, and peace. So this chapter, it teaches us that in our daily life, we need to focus on what is benevolent, focus on what is yin. Of course, yin and yang it exists in this dimension in our life, but there is something that we need to focus. So this chapter tells us that we should focus on the left, focus on the growth, the humbleness and peace, instead of the yin, instead of destruction, execution, or even force. Giacomo Tienshin, can you help us to read this slide here?
Okay. Side, using armed force is an ominous method. There are beings that detest it. Therefore, a Tao person will not take part. A noble person positions oneself to the left. With armed force as last resort, one position to the right. Using armed force is an ominous method. A noble person detests its use. It should only be used as a last resort, and one should remain calm. Upon achieving a desirable result, one does not glorify it. When one starts to glorify it, it expresses that one enjoys harming others. When one enjoys harming others, one will not win people's hearts. Auspicious occasions should be emphasized on the left. Inauspicious occasions should be emphasized on the right. The second commander takes the left position. The commander-in-chief takes the right position. This should be treated as a funeral. When many people lose their lives during battle, we mourn the dead. When there is victory, it is treated as a funeral.
Thank you, Giacomo Tienshin, for reading this chapter. Let me read the Chinese part as well. 夫嘉宾者不祥之气，物或恶之，故有道者不处。君子居左，I'm sorry，君子居则贵左，用兵则贵右。兵者不祥之气，非君子之气，不得已而用之，恬淡而上，胜而不美。而美之者，是要杀人。夫要杀人者，不可得志于天下矣。吉事上左，凶事上右。偏将军居左，上将军居右。言以上礼处之，杀人众多，以哀悲弃之；战胜以丧礼处之。So on this chapter, it looks like it's all about what tactic we should use in the battlefield in terms of the general, in terms of the commander. On the first line, this character. It's an expression of sadness to the people. It's like saying, "Hi, you guys, using armed force is an ominous method, but most people use it, or this kind of thing. I try to tell you, but you guys don't understand. Using armed force is an ominous method." So this is an expression of this character. It's an expression of sadness. How come the government, the emperor, the commander don't listen to me as Lao Tzu? Because we know that 2,000 years ago, there was a lot of battle going on in China. So Lao Tzu very much condemned using the armed force. Now, this character, on the surface, it looks like it's talking about something good. Like if we apply to this chapter, will be, if we apply this word into this sentence, it would be like well-armed force, well-trained force, well-trained soldier. So that's the literal meaning. But in the ancient Chinese, this character is a synonym of Wei, and the character of Wei means only. So this one is kind of lost in the translation. So this one we can interpret into two ways. One is the good soldier, diligent soldier, or well-trained armed force, or the other way is we can use the expression of only. Okay, now the character of armed force. So that's the English literal translation. But in a deeper level, we can look at the armed force in so many perspectives, such as number 2 here. In a perspective of daily affair, what kind of armed force we have? We have our eyes. Sometimes we give people white eyes, right? So that's our armed force. And what about sometimes we give people dirty look? And it depends on how we look at people. Sometimes people can interpret differently. And also our tongue, it's also our armed force. So when we look at armed force, we should look at it as a tool that can damage, hurt, or kill. So talking about this, we do have a lot of armed force. We have our hand that we can fight, we can slap people, right? We can use our ear to listen to gossip. So that's our tool. Our tool uses armed force. We have our tongue that can kill. We can slander. We can have divisive speech. We can talk behind people. And our eyes, we can see what we are not supposed to see. And then we gossip people around. So all this are our armed force. And that we apply to our daily affair. That become our gossip, and we become clever. We become manipulating in others. Nowadays, how many people receive scamming call? I'm sure we do that on daily basis. And so there are people who use their intelligence, use their behavior, use their tool, use their bodily tool to scam people. So Lao Tzu say, this is not a good way. It's an evil way to live your life. And in terms of human relationship, so sometimes the spouse who makes more money will use that as an advantage. Then that becomes his or her armed force, right? Sometimes maybe you are a single mother and the only soldier that you have is the kid, and then you become the general of the house, and you feel that you are more superior. So maybe sometimes you have just in the family, we can there's a lot of way we can use our armed force. We can use our financial power, our status, maybe our employment. If we have long-term employment, it seems like we have more financial power. The other person who have a short-term, like a temporary employment, like a part-time, then that person will have a less power. Or not to mention about temporary position, or not to mention somebody who is unemployed, living in the household. That person has no power. So we do utilize a lot of tool in our home to run our family, to run our family relationship, whether it's parenting, whether it's in schooling between teacher and student, between workforce. Sometimes our boss use the authority as an armed force. And this one, number 4, organization. Organization applies to temple, church, sometimes the church, the pastor, the master use that as a power to suppress others. So all this are not auspicious because all the tool that we mentioned is used to hurt, to harm, and to kill the other people who are less fortunate, who are in a lower position, isn't it? Now, the next one, some being may detest it. Therefore, a Tao person will not take part. Some being. So Lao Tzu not only mentioned about human will detest it, of course. So if somebody who has negative energy around it, of course, the anger is going to vent, the frustration is going to vent, the chi is going to vent. But animal can also sense that kind of energy too. So I want to mention that sometime, say in your home, you have some homeless cat or homeless dog come to you. That should be a blessing because the homeless cat and the dog, they sense that whatever you live in, it's a household that provides auspicious energy. That's why the homeless cat and the dog, they come to your home. So be sure to provide something for the cat and the dog. I'm sure we can spare some food for them or even provide a living space for them. Yeah. My home has a cat, and that cat was a homeless cat. My husband brought it from outside, and then later on we took it to the vet. Anyway, so not even human, animal can also sense it too. So Lao Tzu used the word 或. 或 means maybe. In Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu occasionally uses this character 或 because nothing is absolute. So Lao Tzu uses this character 或. It's may. This is where the translation comes in. Some being may detest it. Therefore, we are a Tao person, right? Because we are here to study Tao, we are here to study Tao Te Ching. We are a Tao person. Of course, we don't want to use armed force because this whatever armed force that we use, it will have its consequence. And we know that when we use that armed force, whether it's our eyes, our mouth, or the tongue, our lips, our facial expression, we will reap our consequence. If we do that, our family will eventually drift away from us. Maybe they are still living with us, but we are no longer heart and heart together. So being a adult person, we will not situate in this kind of situation. Next one, a noble person positions oneself to the left with armed force as last resort, one position to the right. So based on the previous slide, it says that using armed force is not good. But there will be some time that we have to use armed force. If somebody come into your house as an invasion, of course you have to fight for your life. Of course you have to fight for your property. So Lao Tzu said there will be time that you use your armed force. And then that will be your last resort. But in our daily life, we don't want to use armed force. We want to be calm. We want to be peaceful. We want to practice benevolence. We want to practice goodness. And Lao Tzu say, focus on the left, on the daily routine. Occasionally, you can use the right, which is the force. So on this chapter, this is the first time Lao Tzu used the caricature of Junzi. In the previous chapter, Lao Tzu always used the word 圣人, which is sage. So here I want to talk about Junzi. Since it's the first time it's being used, I want to say that this Junzi has been repeated 3 times in chapter 31, 38, and 41. But the character of 圣人 has been used for 37 times. So Lao Tzu really focus on the teaching of 圣人. So you and I, we should be so honored, so feeling so lucky and so fortunate that we are reading this book, because whatever we read, it's Lao Tzu's word for us for sage to be. Lao Tzu wants us to become a sage. Right now, we are sage to be. We are a sage trainee. We are a Buddha trainee. So feel so fortunate about it. So what's the difference between being a Junzi and a sage? Being a noble person and a sage. So let's start from sage, because in the previous chapter, Lao Tzu always used the character of sage. It's somebody who always follow the concept of wu wei and transcend personal desire and ego. So being a sage has no desire and no ego completely. And a sage can guide others but remain detached. So who is an example of sage? Lao Tzu himself. Jesus, of course, Shakyamuni Buddha, and I would say Mother Teresa, and Confucius, and there's also other sage too that I'm not going to mention here. But are we the sage? I think we are training to be a sage, but because right now we are not there yet, because we still have our desire, we still have our ego, we still have our preference. We haven't shaved our head, we haven't go into the cave, we haven't practiced in the middle of the mountain. We are still attached to our family. So it's very difficult to be a sage. So now we should be happy to be a noble person. So a noble person may still engage in the society. And that's us, right? And we have integrity and wisdom, but not necessarily fully enlightened. That's talking about me. I don't know about you. You can decide whether you are a noble person or a sage. So Lao Tzu, in this chapter, is the first time talking about sage. And so that's in this chapter. The next time when we see sage, I'm sorry, Lao Tzu is the first time talking about noble person in this chapter. The next time we talk about it will be in 38, and then 41 being the last one. So auspicious and inauspicious are reciprocal energy. These are part of the nature. So as long as we are in a society, we have to manage left and right. We have to manage left and right, because there There will be times that we have to defend ourselves. There will be time we have to discipline ourselves. We have to, like me as a mother, there are times I have to discipline my kids. Then I have to hold my position to the right. I have to use armed force. I have to use my mouth to lecture my kids. I have to teach my kids maybe with harsh words, but not hurt his or her feeling. Yeah, so being a virtuous gentleman in Confucius' term is somebody who practice benevolence, practice righteousness, and practice propriety. Now, the next word that I want to say is Ji. Ji, this character means in our daily life. In our daily life, that means our whole life, our entire life, between now until the time that we die. Most of time, whenever you are aware, whenever you are conscious enough that you want to focus on the left. And there will be some situation that you have to use the right. And that's only when you use it in your last resort. So we talk so much about left and right. Now let's define what is left. You can look at this picture right here. So first of all, on this circle, we see this a lot. Left is yin, right is yin. By the way, we see a lot of this picture, and sometimes they are in the wrong position. I want to tell you that this is if you want to study in the yin, so this is the correct position. Yin have to be on the left side. Yin have to be on the right side. But when there's an energy exchange, of course, it moves. Of course, this energy moves. But literally, when we say left, because yin is on the left side, right? Yin is on the right side. So when we study this chapter, we have to study in this position. So left means upper. You can see that the white part is on the upper part. The black part is in the lower part. So upper and lower. And left part is active and bright. And it means growth, abundance, accumulation, benevolence, humbleness, birth, and also means spring and auspicious. So why does it mean growth? So when we see this picture, we can easily understand spring means abundance, right? Spring and summer means abundance. And this means growth. And it also means humbleness. Okay, so on the other side, it's the right side. So right side means diminishing, weak, withdrawal, decrease, aging, dark, force. So this means autumn. We can see on the picture earlier, if we draw this into 4 quadrant, this side means autumn, this side is winter. So what does autumn mean? Autumn means it's harvest time, right? During harvest time, what do we need to do? We need to use knife to cut it out. We have to remove the fruit. If we look at the farmer use knife to remove their crops. So it means killing. This side means killing, means execution, means using force with blade. And that means inauspicious in terms of study this chapter. So let's look at this 2 line here. A noble person position oneself to the left on a regular basis. But there will be some time that we have to use armed force, but that's only with the last resort. So what does it mean when we focus on the right? It means that one deviate from the inner nature. In the Tao temple, we utilize our left hand to light the holy lamp. If you go to any Tao temple, I don't know about Buddha's temple, but here I'm in the Tao temple. We light the holy lamp, the mother lamp, the yin lamp. We use our left hand. And also, we will put the incense in the pot. And We will hold the incense with both hands, but when we put the incense in the pot, we use our left hand. And also when we koto is when we do the ritual where we bow on the cushion. We use our left hand to cover our right hand. So if you receive the 3 treasures in our Tao temple, you will understand the left hand is there to cover the right hand. So we use the yin to cover the yin. We use the benevolence to suppress and to suppress and kill. We use our strength to cover our weakness. And we use our left hand to hide the yin. So this is the hidden message about the left and right. A lot of people who study this chapter does not know what this means. It's great that we are study this. Now in this chapter, we focus so much on the left, but then you say, okay, the concept of the left, where does it come from? It actually comes from He Tu. I'm talking about why Lao Tzu focused on the left. 5,000 years ago, Saint Fuxi also discovered left is auspicious. And Lao Tzu's time and Fuxi's time is about 3,000 years apart, but they coincidentally teach us left is auspicious. So He Tu in Chinese name, it means the river diagram. So this river diagram is from the back of the dragon horse, and this dragon horse come out from the yellow river. And Saint Fuxi discovered this image. And when he discovered this image, he marked it down right away. So this image is really, really interesting. And indeed, when indeed we can see that Lao Tzu's teaching echoes with Saint Fuxi's teaching too. But this is actually not Saint Fuxi's teaching. It's a teaching from the heaven, because it's actually marking from the horse. So let's look at this. This one is yin, right? Yin being number 1, and this is number 3. 1. Now let's look at the yin first. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So from 1 to 3, it's the left.
This is from the I Ching, isn't it, Joanna?
Yeah, this is I Ching, yes. Yeah, He Tu, everything about He Tu is I Ching. Yeah, so this, you can see that the energy comes from the left. So that's why we say left. So we can see from the dot right here, 1, 3, 5. And 1, 3, 5, 7, it's a white dot, which represent the yin. And now let's look in the yin. Yin is the black dot. Yin is the black dot, which is 2, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4. So we can see that here, 2, 4, right? It's going this way. It's on the left side. Now, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, do you see that this thing goes to the left? So 1 and 3 goes to the left, 2 to 4 goes to the right. Now we discover where the left and right is from. It's actually from He Tu. And it's interesting that 5,000 years ago, this was Saint Fuxi's discovery, and Lao Tzu also teaches the same thing too. So there's a lot of things in this picture here, but we won't be able to talk about this. because time constraint. But I do have another video about this one from the previous year. So if you want to study, you can look at my previous video. So a noble person that is talking about us. Position oneself to the left. With armed force as last resort, one position to the right. So our primary focus will be on the left to run our daily life. Next one. Using armed force is an ominous method. The gentleman detested its use. So in the earlier chapter, in the earlier slide, we talk about armed force. It's not just limited to the armed force who battle in the military. It's about how we run the family, how we use our temper, how we use our financial source, how we use our status as an armed force. So this armed force we can use in a good way. If you are financially strong in the family, you can use it in a good way, right? You can use your financial resource to hold your family together. But you can also use that to suppress your family, isn't it? So we have to use that very carefully. It's a tool. It's a tool for us to use. So Lao Tzu said, being a gentleman will not use a tool. So this tool in this slide or in this chapter talks about in terms of our daily living, it's a principle how to be a good person. So Lao Tzu say, using the armed force is not the principle of life. It's not the principle of being a good person. So the principle of being a good person is not to use armed force. It's to use what? It's to use benevolence, righteousness, and propriety. This slide, it's about it should only be used as a last resort, and one should remain calm. Remain calm. Remain calm, it's serene without disturbance. So how can we use force and still remain calm? Because we focus most on the left, and that means we practice benevolence and righteousness, right? But when we use force as a last resort, such as in a school position, if you are a teacher, if you are a parent, there are times that you have to discipline your kids. And when you discipline your kids, you will say, don't do it. This is dangerous. Do not go out at night. Do not do this. Do not do that. So when we do that, sometimes the word might be harsh. Just have to be careful not to hurt the other person's feeling. Here, I give an example of a police. So sometimes police want to capture a thief or a burglar or an arsonist. When the police say, would you please give me your hand? That would not work. That would not work, right? Would not work. And also being a police is not easy because being a police, the emotion can stir up very easily. Because being a police, police have to face many people from different ethnic background. This police maybe come with some kind of prejudice, with stereotype, and to intimidate the public. And sometimes maybe the police does not like your race at all and will write you extra ticket and treat you as an enemy. I'm talking about the traffic, the highway patrol. Sometimes they just treat people like an enemy because maybe he's just having a bad day. He used force to stop you. But then in another situation is that because the general public sometimes or just say sour things to the police to make the police angry, and then they capture it on the camera and then post it on the internet. The next thing you know, this police maybe get fired. So it's important to remain calm, because there will be time that we use the right force, which is use domination. But it's very important to not cause harm on the body and the mind. So when we are with somebody and the other person does something inappropriate, what can we do? We want to tell that person privately. We should tell that person privately as a secret, because we want to conceal the bad, and then highlight the good by promoting the goodness in public. Because if we don't want to hurt the other person's feeling, right? We don't want to hurt the other person's fame. How should I say? Defame others. So it's very important. But if we keep defaming others, that will lead to indulgence, and that person will continue to do it. So that's why a rule is supposed to be set in private. And this part is really important in terms of correcting others. So when we correct others, we should done subtly. We should done subtly in terms of the language. For example, when I teach my kids, I wouldn't say what you did is wrong. I would probably rephrase as that I'm sure there's room for improvement. Right? This way we say it subtly and we do not hurt the other person's feeling, and avoid being too harsh. So you can say harsh word, but imagine if you say harsh word for more than 10 hours, that person will be crazy, right? That person's feeling will be so hurt, so damaged. And we want to say it indirectly, not in the public. And also we don't want to point finger. We don't want to call people name. You are stupid. You are pig. You are so dumb. So I will say that the best example that I want you to remember is this coin here. In the ancient Chinese, the Chinese coin is rounded outside, but square inside. We want to avoid those kind of situation, but sometimes we have to say harsh word. But after the harsh word, we have to provide with comfort. In the good old time, in the Chinese way, we know we heard the phrase of tiger mom, right? Tiger mom and tiger dad, they are very harsh. In a way, it's too harsh. So I would say that they use their armed force totally. But we know it's not right. Because once you use the harsh word, and sometimes parents use the way to punish their kids physically, and it will leave devastating scar on their body. It will leave devastating scar in their mind and in their soul. And therefore, the parenting relationship, it will create a gap. I'm sorry, not gap. It's a crack. So the kids will no longer be with you. So here I was talking about this coin here. This coin is interesting. Have you ever seen the ancient Chinese coin? So the ancient Chinese coin is really, it comes with a lot of wisdom. Inside it is a square. The square, it should be fully square. So the square, it means principle, it means discipline. But outside, it's rounded. It does not hurt. So the square can hurt inside. the square represent the rule, the benchmark, the standard, or maybe the punishment, because a square shape can hurt and kill. But the rounded shape outside, it means understanding, it means lenience, it means compassion, it means benevolence. The square represents the armed force, but the circle part represents the left, which is the yin, the white part. So this reminds me that a tiger mom was scorching a child very harsh.
Upon achieving a desirable result, one does not glorify it. When one starts to glorify it, it expresses that one enjoys harming others. When one enjoys harming others, one will not win people's hearts.
Thank you, Giacomo. So sometimes when the result is achieved, we start to glorify it. Here my example is, say the tiger mom achieves some result, and the tiger mom might say that, hey, you are nothing without my help. You are this, I raise you up. You are nothing if I'm not your mom. So when we say this, it will damage our relationship. Or sometime if we work in a company and if we succeed, the company, the boss try to take your credit. Without this company, you are nothing. We are a platform for you to grow, but without the supporting environment, you are just nothing. So this is about glorifying. So Lao Tzu say, when we brag about it, sometimes we brag about our strength, our winning, our power, our financial power, and that will very easily put down on other people. Because when you brag and boast, we need a recipient. And that recipient most likely will become a victim of our bragging, right? So Lao Tzu say, upon we receive a desirable result, don't do anything about it. Just hide away, just drift away, just be humble, don't say anything. However, most people will glorify it, and when you glorify it, it harms others, and you will not win people's hearts. So here, people here, it's about winning your spouse's heart, winning your kid's heart. If you have a family relationship, because all we want in the family is to live in harmony. We want to build trust. We want to love one another, right? But if family are break apart because somebody tried to put somebody down, of course, this won't be a family anymore. So a family is like a year to grow, but a moment to burn. So this is similar to a Tao practice. It's similar to if you build years of trust to your friends, but it takes a day to lose it. So again, it's very important when we use the armed force. That will be the last resort. But when we have to use it carefully, do not glorify it, and do not harm others' mind and body. Mind being their self-esteem, do not hurt people's ego. That's part of mind. And sometimes if we say too harsh word, it hurts people's confidence too. And the other party will become, their self-worth level will become low. And here we are talking about their confidence level is low. So that's where the self-esteem comes from. So a lot of kids who come from abusive family, they usually have very low self-esteem. And I'm sure we all know this kind of people around us. This is a fun slide. So here, Giacomo Tienshin.
Auspicious occasions should be emphasized on the left. Inauspicious occasions should be emphasized on the right.
Yeah, so thank you, Giacomo. So auspicious event, what are they? Wedding, birthday, graduation, marriage, engagement, party, promotion, homecoming, something worth to celebrating. And inauspicious, what is that? That will be sorrow occasions such as funeral, illness, cremation, event, death, injury, or accident. Now let's look at this. We all seen a Kung Fu movie, right? So this is one of the Kung Fu master. On a normal day, we use left hand to cover the right. If you see the Kung Fu movie, you see this. So if we will go back to 2,000 years ago, this is what we do to greet other people. Or we hold it like this. Yeah. But if you see somebody right hand cover the left, that means they are having a funeral at home or something. So have you sometime encountered a friend and then they say, and you say, hey, what's going on? What's up? And then they say, oh, I'm busy, I have something. I have something. That means something not good. They don't want to share with you. Something. I say, what is it? So I have something. What is it? Oh, my father just passed away. But they don't want to tell you. They just want to say, I have something at home. I remember a few years ago, I was asking a friend, and then this is the situation. I have something at home. What's something? What's something? And then after I asked 2 or 3 times, that person said, my father passed away. So the Chinese way of greeting is that sometimes if they have sorrow occasion, they don't want to tell you, especially if you are celebrating something and they have sorrow occasion, they don't want to tell you. And then they will use their right hand to cover the left. This is a more subtle way to say it. So if you greet them with left hand and they greet you with right hand on top, then you will greet them with the same way. So if somebody greets you with left hand on top, you will greet them with left hand on top. However, if you have sorrow occasion, you do it the other way. Peter say, 恭喜发财, Happy New Year. It's the same thing too. Happy New Year, Happy Birthday. So when we do the left hand, cover the right, it's on an ordinary day, 99% of time. So when we see the other person do that, we also reciprocate. If we want to tell the other person you have a sorrow event, then you do it right hand on top. Giacomo Tienshin, can you read it for us?
The second commander takes the left position. The commander-in-chief takes the right position.
Thank you, thank you. And also, can you read this part too?
Right side is reserved for the highest ranking general. Take all the responsibility. If even you win the battle, it is still in danger position. Serves as a warning to handle affairs with care.
So the commander-in-chief is somebody who's in charge. Who is the person who say, let's do it, let's go. So let's say if a company, so let's say if we are a group of people, we want to invest the money, and then somebody have to take charge. But if the company lost, who is to blame? Usually it's the person who is in the highest ranking. This happened in owner organization too. In Tienshin temple, here in our temple, if our temple have something goes wrong, it's our master who is in charge. The second commander will not be in charge because the second commander will give advice, but the commander-in-chief will have the final say. Let's do it. So the commander-in-chief, it's almost like taking the right position. In terms of our cultivation, let's look at 30, because in Tao Te Ching, when we look at the chapter, we don't look at it by itself. Sometimes we have to refer to the other chapter too. So this is chapter 30. One who assists a ruler with a principle of Tao. does not dominate the world with armed force. Here, it's also talking about armed force too. So this echoes with our slide. One who assists. One who assists, that's the supporter, right? That's the second commander. So the ruler is the commander-in-chief. So in terms of our physical body, who is the commander-in-chief and who is the supporter? We don't want to just look at it in a military term. We want to see how does it apply to ourselves. Now let's look at this one. This is the main person, and this is the supporting person. Isn't it true that sometimes we go to buffet and we pay so much money and we say, I don't want to eat anymore, but then your body say, I already paid for it, let's eat so that I can have my money worth it. We like to boast to fulfill our ego. So I would say the right person, it's echoes with the commander-in-chief. Go ahead, AK.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, I would say the commander chief could probably be the brain in the body, and the supporting left position probably would be the heart.
That's a good perspective. So when you say the heart, you mean the true self, and the brain meaning it's our
Thinking and
internet,
thoughts.
our
Yeah.
thinking, our thought.
Correct.
Oh,
yeah.
And that include our behavior too, right? Because
yeah.
thinking thought and then leads to behavior.
Well, you could also consider maybe sometimes the ego takes over.
Yes.
Sometimes the higher self intervenes. A lot of times wind up with our egos, and yet we would want the higher self to be
correct. Isn't it beautiful that we are learning how to apply this thing into our cultivation? It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback, for everybody's feedback. A lot of time in daily life, our ego take over our true self. So that's why Lao Tzu say we want to focus more on the left. Tienshin, can you read this slide for us?
This should be treated as a funeral. When many people lose their lives during battle, we mourn the dead. When there is victory, it is treated as a funeral.
Thank you, thank you. So after the battle, many people die, of course. So Lao Tzu called this empathy and grief for lost life. And we do not want to glorify it. As we mentioned in the previous slide, we don't want to celebrate. So how can we treat it like a funeral in terms of our cultivation? Okay, so I want to give you an example. Right now, I'm in a room with Peter. So let's say Peter, this is just an example, okay? Let's say Peter did something inappropriate, and I say, Peter, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this. And then I give him some harsh word because he's engaged in a very dangerous position. He went out last night for a drink, and then he drank too much, and then drive home, and then he was overdrunk, and then throw up everywhere. So I give him some very harsh word. Peter is also feeling bad too. How to treat like a funeral is that I give Peter a hug and I say, Peter, I say harsh word to you because I care about you so much. The tear come out from my eyes, and I say, Peter, why do you do this? I use armed force because I care so much about you. You are my sibling. And I cry and I hug him. And then Peter say, oh, yeah, Joanna, Sister Joanna, I understand you. I apologize. I shouldn't do that. And then also Peter cried too. So both of us cry and we hug each other. That's what Lao Tzu mean. We treat it like a funeral. In this context, in our daily life, the person who expressed the harsh word will express its regret. As for me, I will say to Peter, Peter, the word that I say is too harsh. But then Peter would also say that, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't drink too much. I'm sorry. And then Peter cried and I also cry. And we reflect on each other's word and behavior. So as you can see this image here, two siblings cry together. So this is how we treat it as a funeral in our daily life. This practice will work in terms of when we discipline our kids. Of course, we know that in the battlefield, many people die, especially in the recent Ukraine war since 2021, and it's still going on now. But in terms of cultivation, that's how we practice it in terms of funeral. And the worst thing that we can do in the earlier slide, we say that we don't want to say you are nothing without me and I punish you for your own good. I remember my husband is grew up in that kind of environment. The mother will always tell my husband, without me, you are nothing. So every time when my husband says something, hey, I did this, my mother-in-law will say, without me, you are nothing. This is something very small. And then my husband will say, okay. So there's nothing to talk about because every time when he wants to say something that he accomplished, but the tiger mom will say, this is nothing. This is nothing compared to my accomplishment. Does it make our human relationship better? Of course not. So now we all know how to apply this chapter into our life. So the most important line that we want to remember is that the armed force should be used as a last resort and one should remain calm. And once we use it, we want to treat it like a funeral. And now I want to say special thanks to Robert M. Jenko, who is the PowerPoint editor. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Robert and I worked on this slide. I thank you for your devotion and your time in editing
You're
the
welcome.
slide. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Robert
Thank you.
is the author of this book. He, as you can see, that he holds this book. It's called the Tao Te Ching and Intuitive Interpretation. I thank your participation here and your attendance. If mistakes were made or said during today's sharing, I ask the forgiveness from the Heavenly Mother, Buddha Maitreya, Jigong Buddha, Patriarch, Sizun Simu, Grandmaster and Senior Master Li and Junior Master Li, and I thank your attendance here. Thank you.